All right. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome. Thanks for joining us on our second annual Black Women in Cyber panel brought to you by Blacks in Cybersecurity Mentorship Group. My name is Jessica Hoffman. I apologize. I'm not on camera, having a little technical difficulties. Don't hold it against me. But we have an amazing group of women here tonight that's going to answer a lot of questions about the challenges, the success stories that they have gone through in their cyber career. They're going to drop some gems as far as how they handle those situations in a predominantly male environment, work-life balance, what it is that they had to that they triumph through to get to where they are and be successful. We don't just have cyber professionals. We have some nonprofit folks. We got some mental wellness folks on the line as well. Just shows that women can do so much more. I am so happy to be here, and we're going to have a great time. So I believe you have questions that you can drop within the chat. We'll be monitoring that, so please take advantage of that. We will answer any questions towards the end as well. So without ado, we have fantastic moderator on deck, Randi Collins. Also, Nita's on as well. We represent the Blacks in Cyber Mentorship Program, and we're super, super happy to kick this off. So, Randi, would you mind?
Hi, everyone. I'm Randi. I'm part of the BIC Mentors Program board, and I'm just going to be helping with asking the questions to this lovely board that we have together. All right, so the first question is that studies have shown that Black women represent 5% or less in the overall cyber field, and even less in executive positions. Additionally, the pay gap between genders and races leaves Black women as the least paid in the industry. In your experience, how can we move the needle more aggressively forward to tackle these discrepancies? And Christine, can you answer that question for us?
Sure. As far as the discrepancies between Black women and our races in cyber, it's definitely there. I think we can acknowledge that as we, matriculate through and, get in more elevated positions, we can kind of lift as we climb. And so I think really shedding light on some of those biases and bringing that education forward to our colleagues, and I think can improve the landscape overall, and thus improving that gender gap, that wage gap, that race gap that we're seeing amongst Black women in cyber. And so I am hopeful that in the future that we bring that awareness to our counterparts in our organizations, and that's how we tend to move the needle forward, is through understanding and facing those biases and bringing that forward.
Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Nita Jones-Coleman, and I am also part of the mentor. I help with recruiting and maintaining our mentors. I would like to read the next question, and that is, in your opinion, changes need to be made to empower Black women in the field of data science. And two, if you could just give us an intro of yourself and then take a moment to answer that question.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Fatou Sankare. I am a cybercrime data scientist. I am also a assistant professor in cybersecurity and also founder of Datacation LLC. So what institutional changes need to be made to empower Black women? I think the first thing is actually like what a data scientist is. I think the name data scientist has moved over the years, mathematician, statistician, and now we use the word data scientist. A lot of people are unaware that data science falls into machine learning and artificial intelligence and things like that. A lot of companies are now moving to detect cyber crimes by utilizing machine learning. And this requires a data scientist to actually be able to monitor that, right? So high volumes of data structures, right? We have structured data and unstructured data. We have data sources that need to be connected for quality. There's a high volume of false positives because this is a fairly new field. So we need somebody to create those rule-based approaches, right? So that's what a data scientist would do. There also needs to be baselines created for various companies, right? So if you're in the health industry, your cyber threats may be different from somebody in the financial industry, from somebody who's in the nonprofit industry. So I think just the education isn't really there. A lot of people don't really know how data science can tie into cybersecurity, but that is where the world is moving now.
Thank you. All right, next question. Many women in our field struggle with time management in their career and in their personal life. What are some tactics and tips you implement in your life in order to manage a healthy work-life balance? And I'm going to kick this off to Kiara. Can you give an introduction of yourself and answer the question?
Yes. Hi, my name is Kiara Bell. I'm a lead information security and compliance analyst with a company called Hercules. I'm also a vice president of a nonprofit called Healing the Broken Child. As well, I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. To answer that question, what things I do to kind of help with that time management, one of the things I've started incorporating is I wake up 2 hours before my job starts. So my job starts at 9 a.m. I wake up at 7 a.m. and I start to kind of plan out my day. For me, one of the hardest things that I've struggled with, especially in this industry, is having that work-life balance. You know, as a woman, you feel the need to prove yourself. So the early bird gets the worm, and a lot of times that causes burnout. So one of the things I've incorporated in this role is to get up early, to spend that 2-hour time frame to really focus on me, whether that be making a meal for myself, working out, taking the time to read a devotional, take a walk. I really have started to like really key in on your mental health. So I feel if you dedicate that 2-hour time frame to really just sitting down and kind of planning out your day to kind of get your mojo started, I feel that if you feel better, you are more productive. Also, too, it helps with making sure that you're not burnt out. So I do that as well. I write out my tasks for the day. I write out everything that I'm doing as far as work. I look at just a list of things that, one, I'm doing or things that may require me to depend on someone else that I may not be able to get done that day. And I allow myself to have that cutoff time. If there's a project that I'm working on that may require me to stay after work, maybe an hour or 2 hours, I don't go past that cutoff time because my time is valuable, just like, the job's time is valuable. And if you are burnt out and you get sick and you're not able to perform, they're just not, they're going to do something about that. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to replace you, or either they're going to say, hey, maybe you need to take some time. So to alleviate that stress and to have more time management, I just start to like really set the tone for my day and really just start to, like I say, wake up 2 hours early. For those that may not want to do that, give yourself 30 minutes, or if it works better for you, plan out your day before you go to bed. That way, when you get up in the morning, it's 30 minutes before your shift starts. You have that 30 minutes to say, hey, this is what I'm doing for today. This is how I'm going to tackle the day.
I want to give our other panelists a chance to answer that. Work-life balance and can be a struggle for us all. And I would just like to, anyone else want to chime in real quick?
I wanted to chime in. I know I didn't introduce myself before. Again, I'm Christine. I'm a senior cloud security engineer at Merck, which is a pharmaceutical company. And I transitioned into cloud about 2 years ago. So about time management and kind of managing your time, I'm very busy. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I have a whole family I need to take care of. So for me, I'm going to piggyback kind of what Kiara said as far as planning your day out. It's really important to kind of get an outline of what your day is going to look like. What does that mean, getting up earlier or later? But for me, it really means just carving out that intentional time for myself, whether it be upskilling, self-learning, reading, whatever it is, being intentional about carving out that time and relying on your partner or whoever you have, your support system, to kind of help you when, things kind of get crazy. I think that's really important for me. And I know weekends, we usually say that's for us, we do have that family time, but even within that time, being intentional about, what you want to do during that time. So yeah, that's how I balance my time.
Awesome. Thank you. I just want to say I can relate to all of their, I've been in the cyber field for about 20 plus years, and balance is so essential, especially to keep your motivation up. And I'm just don't start your day without a meditation, mentally help, and just to keep you going long term. Because to be able to pull away very quickly, but long term, that may help you tremendously be able to survive long term. So our next question is, I'm sorry, we all have some challenges, and we from IT to cyber, or from one other field into cyber, male-dominated field. Can you talk about the challenges you experienced? Like, Fran, can you give us your insight on that?
Yeah, sure, Nita. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Fran, and I am currently a cyber threat resilience consultant. I'm also an assistant professor at Duncan and teaching cybersecurity related classes. I am currently also a co-founder of an organization called OSINT for Africa. I am an OSINT and dark web researcher as well. So to speak to that point, for me, I have been in technology for the past 12 plus years, but a bit more recent in cybersecurity, a little over 4.5 years. Transitioning from my tech space into cybersecurity was not that easy, even though I'm already in tech. And so for me, what I'm going to say was a challenge for me is the fact that even though I was so used to being, either the only female in class or either one of 3 female in about 20 or 30 male dominated classes, the same was true transitioning into cyber. And for me, one of the greatest challenges was the fact that because I was new into cyber and I wasn't privy to, organizations like BIC, organizations like Women in Cybersecurity, I didn't really have mentors, or I didn't really know of any women who was in cybersecurity until I started, and until even I was way in. And so for me, those were some of the challenges, because then, getting that motivation to thrive, getting that motivation to survive, getting, people to share their experiences and help me understand it's even okay to be the only Black female, or it's even okay to be part of the minority in my class or in the program. It's okay. And that I should keep pushing, I should keep thriving. And so for me, that was the biggest challenge, the fact that I didn't have, any mentors like myself, or any women like myself in the space to help me navigate the system. Later on, when I realized it was very significant and very key, I made sure that I got myself mentors. I made sure I joined organizations like BIC. I made sure, when I went to conferences, I would reach out to other folks like myself who were in the PhD program, either trying to survive in tech or trying to survive specifically in cybersecurity spaces as well. Nita.
Thank you so much, Fran, for that answer. Randi.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so our next question or request really is, can you talk a little bit about how the BIC organization and or culturally inclusive groups have supported your career advancement and generally retained your interest in cyber? I'm going to kick this off to you, Sherry.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Sherry Duncan. I've been in information technology for over 15 years. I've been a cybersecurity engineer for the last 4 years. I worked with vulnerability management, and right now I'm working with identity access management. I've been with BIC for probably about 6 months now. I love it because number one, we get to network. Number two, we get to help the STEM students. When I started, there was no mentorship program. So it's great to each one teach one. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to help the up and coming engineers. I'm also a mentor for Black girls in cyber. So it's like BIC, but it's mainly focused on the ladies. So that's great because I've been the only one in the room for years. So I'm excited. I'm happy to be here. I'm glad to see other women, and I'm honored to be here with all these intelligent women.
Thank you. I'd like to open up to any of our other panelists, describe some of the challenges you had as you came through in industry, especially now that it's just, we're in that needle and it's very slow. I'm just want to open that up to comments for anyone else.
I'll piggyback off of Sherry. I think one of the struggles that I had, like she said, was not having programs like BIC. When I got into tech, back in 2010. There wasn't a lot of resources or a lot of groups like this that I could lean on to have that mentorship or to just have that support system. I think another thing too that has been a constant struggle, I would say a challenge, has been just especially in roles I've had, not being taken seriously. I think that, they look at it, oh, she's a woman, she's soft, she's timid. So a lot of times we're overlooked and overtalked. So that was one of the challenges I definitely faced, was just having a voice, being able to kind of be in rooms that, I wasn't allowed into because I was a woman and because they felt as if I didn't bring enough to the table. So I think those were just some of the challenges I faced with transitioning. My previous background was criminal justice. So tech was brand new to me. And because of such, people, like I said, they looked at me as they didn't want to take me seriously or as if I was a joke. And I think, as I matured in the industry, and I started to put myself in rooms that doors were closed to me previously, it started to allow me to kind of break down those challenges.
Definitely. What I learned was to partner with my male counterparts because being an engineer, we're not going to know everything. So you learn from your male counterpart. So that's one thing that I learned was networking and partnering with them, making them your champion so that you can progress in your career.
Oh, thank you so much for that, because that is so true. I'm going to move. Rhodesia, this one is for you. I would like for you to share your experience. It was important to stand apart from your male peers, especially when there was an incident.
Okay, sure. Hi everyone, Dabney. I currently scanning analyst at Light. Prior to making my transition, was working as a mental health professional. So years ago, I was working where I was the only team out of a team of about like 20. And there were sometimes we would get notifications about would have to do and reach out to end users questions, and I different way in the way I was connected is the way my colleagues were. They really like to build a rapport, and I lead with that. My experience in the mental health background, kind of ask questions and round up just to not to alarm you. Found out that using my get more information versus the way my colleagues were doing it, and they were a lot of resistance. One way it was kind of keeping me honest, and it got to a point where they would like, hey Ro, can you have more success? So that was one for my colleagues.
Thank you so much, Rhodesia. We had a little audio issue with that, but you were saying, I would like to open this up to anyone. If you would like to add to that, that would be great. It's okay if you don't.
Okay, I'm going to go on with the next question. So this is going to be open to anybody. So if you have any input, go ahead and chime in. What changes, if any, have you seen within your companies to execute diverse hiring processes and put forth efforts for equity and inclusion?
I would say, it's Christine again. I would say tell your company, your manager, your DEI about organizations like BIC, like partnering with, organizations that specifically have Black, minority, and cultural diverse, that's proposing that. So getting them in that space is inviting them for sponsorships and making those connections. Because as I was sharing, this stream and sharing, that I was a mentor, a lot of people who worked at my job had no idea that I was, doing this. And they're like, oh, this is good to see. And if there's some talent out there, we'd love to, have them. And so I think, bringing that together and, getting your managers involved in the organizations and showcase what they've been doing to be impactful, I think is a great step in getting that diverse, thought, dynamic way of thinking, bringing some new, thought to the team, because we need some of that diversity. Because if everyone thinks the same way, I really believe that we won't make it far in cyber. We're still chasing our tails, not solving any real solutions. So having some diversity in thought, bringing organizations like BIC and, any women in cybersecurity program, bringing that to your organization, to your higher ups and saying, hey, can we partner? I think would be, a great benefit. So share, share BIC, share what we're doing here. And I think that's a good move.
Any other thoughts?
I think also too, on the flip side of that, getting involved as well on the opposite side of that. So being involved in your diversity and inclusion, if there is a team or a group, being involved that way, you can bring those innovative ideas to the table. Also too, I think companies can do a better job of having representation of individuals that look like us in leadership roles. I think it starts from having those tough discussions in diversity and inclusion channels. But if we are not involved, or we decide, hey, I'm just going to kind of take a seat back, and just kind of let the cards fall how they may, I think being involved in those different groups where we can kind of voice our opinion, but not only voice our opinion, but bring suggestive suggestions to the table and say, hey, I noticed that we say we're for diversity and inclusion, but I don't see women like myself that are VPs, that are directors, that are managers. What can we do to kind of move the needle forward? What type of additional trainings can we bring to the table? If there's a company that's not offering to pay for training, how can we kind of roll that in? What resources can we get outside? Like you said, BIC, other resources can we bring in to kind of help move the needle forward, where we do have more individuals like myself in tech, but also too in leadership roles.
Thank you. I think we have a couple of questions I just want to throw out, and one of them is about a type of planner. Do you use a digital, you use a physical planner, and what do you find that works best? I'll open that up to anyone who wants to answer.
I'll answer that. I use both. I have my calendar on my phone. I have my notes on my phone. And then sometimes at my desk, I just have to write stuff down, or I use notes on Microsoft Notes to, like, for example, when you're working on a project, you have to keep all your notes together. So I use Microsoft Notes. So I use everything because sometimes you don't have your phone with you. So sometimes you just write something down.
Yeah, I'll add on to that and say that I have a small physical planner that I carry with me wherever I'm going, even if it's to the store, because if I don't write it down, I'm going to forget. And then I also have a huge calendar right by my desk, and that's just to jot down anything that comes up that's not really planned, but it's like, okay, I got to get this done. And then the digital planner, the one thing that I realized about me is I have a digital planner, but if I don't open it and physically look at it, I'm not going to remember. But writing something down, okay, I remember writing this down, or this date sounds familiar. I think I'm supposed to be doing something. So that has helped me.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for that. Someone else wanted to chime in? I don't want to cut you off.
Oh, can you hang out?
And whoever that was, I couldn't hear. One of the things I want to go back to, what changes if you have you seen in your company? Well, we talked about that a little bit, about the Black male counterpart and supporting the Black women forward and move that needle forward as well in all industries. So, I know our Black male counterparts like to support. What are some of the things that they could do to help move that needle forward in this industry? Because, it can be very challenging at times. Up to anyone who wants.
I just ask. I don't be afraid to ask. Like right now I'm studying for my CompTIA Security Plus, and I asked the guy the other day. I was like, since you have yours already, what else can I do to study to help me, do it? Because like when you're studying your certification, when you're working in the industry, you're not doing everything every day that you're studying for that certification for. So he sent me over some material, and he said if I have any questions to call him. So all I can do is say no. So don't be afraid to ask.
And I think, Nita, adding on to what Sherry is saying, in terms of, what the males can do to support. I know there's a couple of males on here listening to us who are allies, who always want to be in the corner of we women, right? There's so many opportunities that sometimes do come. And instead of passing them on to other, let's say, male mentors, sometimes just take that risk and then pass it on to, a female mentor, right? I mean, mentee, or reach out to them. Sometimes it's just a matter of checking in. Hey, Sherry, hey, Randi, I'm just checking in. I know it's been 6 months since you started your new job. How are you thriving, right? Those little things do go a long way. And so we encourage the males on here to check in with the females that they know have, either transitioned into cybersecurity or even have been in cybersecurity for a while, because sometimes, no man is an island. We need them to check in. We need them to let us know that genuinely they have our best interests at heart and they want us at the table when it comes to cybersecurity. So that's a little I'll add on to that.
Thank you, Fran. I do want to go back to a question that is in the chat, and what keeps you women moving forward in the cybersecurity? What is it about you that motivates you to keep moving forward in this?
I'll answer that. So one of the things that keep me moving in this field is when I look around and there's not that many people that look like me in the field. It's like there's a reason why I'm here. And because I'm here, somebody else might look and say, you know what, if she could do it, then I could do it too. Right. And if we're continuing to talk about those numbers, not increasing the way we want them to, right? Not really increasing the way we want them to. We have to stay, right? And pave the road for the women after us. And I think that that's why our role here is super important. Like, the other thing is like just having that experience and being able to talk to somebody about the struggles of the field. Like, hey, like, yes, when you get here, it's not going to be easy. There's women here that have 10 years of experience and would say nothing's really changed, right? So we have to be here, and that's what keeps me going.
I think Nita, for me, just to piggyback on Fatou, what actually keeps me going is the fact that there's this kind of term I always use that is, the future is female. And I want to be a part of it, whether the males like it or not. The future is female. The future of cybersecurity is female. You can argue or you want, right? And so for me, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that drive that actually affirms the fact that the future is female. And so to speak a little to what Fatou said, we all have to be part of bridging that gap. We always go for conferences. We always hear, people say there's a gap when it comes to women, when it comes to Black women, when it comes to women. And so I think sometimes instead of, talking the talk, we have to also walk the walk. And by doing that would only be if we are all part of the driving force, if we are all still, pushing and trying to make it, rather than, either leaving or rather than just being reluctant in helping move the needle or helping move that drive.
Yes, Anita, I just want to piggyback off of that, what you guys said. I think representation, especially with young girls, I remember, I think it was Sherry, this issue in Black girls in cyber. I think young Black girls, young girls were told to do different fields, different jobs. So I think really early on, getting them involved in STEM and engineering and having that representation, that visual of seeing Fatou as a data scientist, seeing that picture there really inspires them and say, hey, I think you can do it. And it starts with the young girls. It starts really, really young, exposing them, having exposure. Because I do see our counterparts, believe it or not, they are exposing them at very young ages. And in the Black community, I'm not seeing it as much. So I think, you know, getting involved in those types of groups really helps, you know, bring more women, more Black women in the cybersecurity field. So that's what I intend to do. And that's what I believe.
Okay, so I'm going to pick up a question from the chat, and it is, are microaggressions common in your field? How are you staying grounded? Open to whoever wants to answer.
I'm gonna answer this question. So my background is in political science. I went to Howard for undergrad, and I wanted to go to law school. Now I'm in cybersecurity. And then I got my master's in cybersecurity, and currently I'm a doctoral candidate in cybersecurity. So I think some of my microaggressions from other people might come from like, she don't really know what she's doing, or her background doesn't align to data science or cybersecurity. So they're kind of confused as to how does she get here? Besides all the other factors, it's like her educational background doesn't make any sense to us. And then just pivoting over to like the academia, I'm a very young professor. So people will look at me and they'll be like, oh, like, where's the professor? And I'm like, I'm right here. And people would really just say like, how is she a professor? And really try to question my intelligence. I've had people ask me questions that they probably pulled from like the CISSP or Security Plus and asked me. And I'm like, did you think I didn't know the answer to that? So I think it's really interesting when people would, you know, kind of look at you and say, I don't really know if she knows what she's doing, or do certain things to kind of make you feel like you're less than. And I know I'm here for a reason, so it really doesn't bother me. But I know that sometimes there are days where I'm like, I didn't have to go through that. And you only put me through that because I'm a Black woman, a Black Muslim woman at that.
No, I to piggyback off you, I agree 100%. You know, some of the things that I have endured in my 7 years of working in tech, I would just say some of the things that I've verbally have been said to me is enough to make you just literally bite your tongue and just walk out the door. But to one of the things I would say, I agree with you. I've had people basically, I walk into rooms and they find out I'm in leadership roles and they're like, okay, what does she bring to the table, or why is she here, or how did she get this role? Or I've been told, oh, well, I don't have a master's degree, you do. Or I've been told, well, I don't have extra training, or, you know, I got here because of my years of experience versus my degree. So I've had all different things thrown at me. Even I think the worst is when I had a manager say to me one time, oh, I thought when I hired you, I hired someone that was smart. Yes. And I was literally the only Black woman in that entire department. And I had to grin and bear it at the time because, you know, I was taught, you know, hey, don't show emotion. Don't show that you are frustrated, because you don't be labeled as the angry Black woman. And so I would say that, you know, there's some things that I have definitely endured with that microaggression, where people have said things to me or looked at me certain ways, or I have said or given suggestions for different products, and I may have said it, and then someone else says it a different way that is either a white male or a white female, and their proposal is taken over mine, but they said it the exact same way. You know, or they said it a different way from what I said it, but that was received well. So I would just say, like I said, I've definitely had to, in my previous years, kind of bite my tongue and kind of, I hate to say it, but I told a friend of mine, have that slave-like mentality where you do the work, you go home. And I just choose now, I'm not going to do that anymore. Like, I'm not going to be disrespectful, but there is a time and a place where you do correct things like that.
And Nita, just to add on to my colleague Kiara, I think lately one of the things that we need to really stress on is, as women, as Black women, we need to actually talk, right? You need to talk, you need to voice out, not in a disrespectful way, like Kiara said, but I think often than not in the past, and this is personally, I have, you know, in the past, I wouldn't talk about it. I would just take it in and either go home and cry and be like, okay, I'll cry it out, I'll be okay. But moving forward, I learned the hard way, right? And so now, as I work with my mentees, I tell them there are certain things that might be okay, and it's okay for them not to be okay. But now, the rate at which we are going as women, we have to talk about them. Don't keep quiet and go and cry behind closed doors, because that's not going to fix the problem, right? Call them out. And I know I've done that a couple of times. And when I come back home, I feel so good about myself because I was able to call them out and say, you know, things as simple as, oh, so are you indirectly telling me I did not contribute to this project? Are you telling me that you didn't see my input? You know, things like that. Because sometimes you get so hurt and then you don't even know how to go about it. So just to add on, for those of you listening, for those of you who are experiencing some of these microaggressions, make sure you're calling them out, right? And make sure you're letting them know that, you know, it's not okay for some of these things to be done. And some people genuinely don't even know they're doing that, right? So that would be a learning moment for them. And if these people are really teachable people, trust me, they're going to learn from the calling out or from the minutes of conversation you have with them.
That's so true, and thank you for that. I also would just like to just add one thing: like, build a network, talk to other people in the field because they answer those questions. There is a right way to when there's some microaggression or even aggression straight on. You know, I was told, I'm probably people, but I was told early on, oh, you're angry black woman male, and they thought that was funny. And so every time I was passionate or every time I talked about she's an angry black woman, look at her go, and I had to correct that because I was just because I'm passionate about something, just because I get excited, you know, that doesn't upset. And you're categorizing me in a position or putting me in a place that makes me less valued in this organization. And you have to call, and when you see it as a leader or a supervisor or a director or executive, because in some cases, the younger areas where they don't have that influence, not comfortable calling it out. So I just want to encourage you to find that net, help you combat that and talk to you through that. I want to, this is such an important question, and I had to think about this a lot myself. Question is, what advice would you tell your younger cyber career have known sooner? So, you know, when early on in your career, you knew what you know now, what would you be telling yourself? Because we have a lot of people want to understand how to get, you know, past the next point or the next. What would you tell yourself? And I'm going to start with Sherry, and then I'm going to let other people chime in.
What would I tell my younger self? It's okay to make mistakes. As an engineer, you're a great engineer to saying that, okay, I made a mistake. As long as you're able to fix it and you learn from that mistake. The other thing I would say is that admitting that you don't know everything. It's okay that you don't know. As long as you can figure it out. Back then, we didn't have Google. So now Google's my best friend. So, you know, and ask for help if you don't know. That's okay. Like, for example, if you're working on a project or if you're working on a problem, if you can't figure it out, say if it's an SLA and you have something's down, you have 30 minutes to get it back up. After 5 minutes, you can't figure out, call someone. Don't be afraid. Because I felt that I had to know it all, and it's okay not to know it all because I don't. I'm learning. I learn every day. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
Thank you. Go ahead. Was that Christine? Or Rhodesia?
Rhodesia. You all hear me? I know my audio is kind of. Is it better now? I tell them to network for a long kind of shine away from that differences, different area, whether it be virtual. I'm really big on network. You never know who the next person you meet at the next, and that'll give you your next opportunity. opportunity. Your mentee, it could be your business. Tell my younger self, network more out there. Tell people what you're doing. Just get out there.
Yeah,
Thank
I'd like to
you.
piggyback off that. What I would probably tell myself is that you can do it, because I think, cyber tech, it always seems like kind of, taboo. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I'm smart enough. A lot of imposter syndrome was there when I first started, and being too afraid to ask questions because I didn't want to sound like I didn't know what I was talking about. But I found my biggest growth was when I asked questions. And I always tell myself and tell my mentors too, like, ask 5 whys. Always get to 5 whys. If you get your answer by the 3rd why, fine. But if you still feel like after the 4th you don't know, ask again. Because when you ask why and you ask questions over and over, like, the other person may feel like, you're wasting their time, but for you, you're getting what you need out of it. You're growing. So I would say don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to kind of like, we have a little healthy amount of imposter syndrome. And I think a healthy amount's okay, because that means you're being critical a bit of yourself and you want to get better. But don't let that shy you away from meeting your goals and doing what you need to do. So that's what I would tell my younger self is, ask questions, ask the 5 whys, try to shy away from some of that imposter, some of that guilt and self-doubt, and know that you can do it. You have a great support system. Reach out. I don't believe in gatekeeping at all. Any resources I have, you'll have. And so that's what I would tell my younger self.
Thank
You had the 5 whys. I had the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, why.
And I think neither. I'm just going to say, for my younger self, I would have told myself to, get myself a mentor as early as I can. Get myself a mentor, get myself people that, would be my strongest advocates, people that would be there for me, people that even when I am not at the table, they would mention my name at the table because they believe in me. They know what value I can bring to the table, even though I'm not there to sell myself, right? And so that is what I would have told my younger self. And so for those of you listening, if you're not already a mentee of the BIC mentorship program, make sure you're looking out so you can sign up for the next cohort. There's tons of goodies for you there.
The 3 things I would tell my younger self would be 1, to network, 2, not to compromise, and 3, not to dim my light. I think a lot of times, when I first got into tech, it was very hard for me to let my light shine. I was very knowledgeable in certain areas, but, like a lot of us, we were either afraid to say things because we didn't want to look as if we didn't know enough, or we are afraid to give our ideas because we don't want to be turned down. So I would tell my younger self, like, if you have a voice and it's something that you think will be beneficial to help a company move the needle forward, speak up. Knowledge is power. So if you have something that can be a reliable asset to a company, speak up. Also, too, join those groups. That was another thing I did not do. I was not a part of the diversity and inclusion group at my jobs that I previously had my first 4 years in tech. And for me, it didn't allow me to have a voice. I'm seeing things kind of happen, but I didn't have a voice because I didn't want to put myself out there. So I would definitely tell my younger self, network. Don't dim your light, but then also too, don't compromise. As you grow and mature in tech, do not compromise, do not settle. There are so many different jobs out here. There are so many different connections you can make, and don't settle and don't shortchange yourself. Don't let someone lowball you. Don't let someone give you a lesser title with a higher title with lower pay. Negotiate your salary, negotiate a sign-on bonus, all those things I wish I would have told my younger self. I think that those things are vital. And also to knowing who you are and knowing your worth. That was something that, I wish I would have told my younger self 4 years ago. Because now I know, my worth, and I know what things I'm going to settle for and not settle for, especially in this industry. And I think anyone that's out there listening, make sure that you have that network of people that you can connect with, whether it's male, female, young or old. I think knowledge is power. And when you talk to those individuals and they're able to give you that wealth of knowledge, sit down, listen, soak it in like a sponge, but also to give it to other people as well.
I think we have time for a couple of more questions. Randi, I know you've been watching.
Can I share mine?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Nita. If I had to share advice to my younger self, I think I have about like 5 points, and I'll make it quick. The first thing is research. Cybersecurity is very broad. When a lot of people say they're interested in cybersecurity, my follow-up question is what aspect? And they're looking at me like, what do you mean? I would have done more research on the industry I wanted to end up in. I would have done more research on what aspect of cybersecurity I wanted to end up in. And also doing a cross-check. I tell people create like an Excel spreadsheet and do like a cross-check of the skills you have and the skills you need for the position that you want, right? I think that that's super important. The second thing that I would have done is attend more cyber events. I'm doing them now, but when I was younger, I should have went to more cyber events once I found out that cybersecurity was something that I wanted to do, just so I can also network and also figure out like the different fields within cyber, like data scientists, risk management, policy, things like that. The third thing is change is okay. Like I said, I wanted to be a lawyer. My mom was like, what's cybersecurity? Now I'm telling her like, don't use WhatsApp. She's like, okay, I won't. She still does it. But it's just things like that where you're learning so much about yourself and you're just like, okay, like, is it okay to make this pivot? What if I mess up? What if I fail? But change is okay. Be ready to learn. Cyber is a never ending field. I always joke and say there is no such thing as a work-life balance in cyber unless you create it yourself. There's always a cyber breach and we're not all on the same time zone, right? So if something is happening in a different country, it affects us here in some way, shape, or form. So we have to just be ready to mitigate those situations depending on the side of the field that you're on. And the last thing is it's okay to fire a mentor. I know it sounds crazy, but I call them my board of directors. Hire and fire accordingly. Sometimes in the beginning of your journey, somebody might be good. And then in the middle of your journey, you're just like, okay, you're not really helping right now, right? Or you've helped me to this point, but you can't help me grow anymore. We're still cool. We're still cordial. But in order for me to move forward, I need to do other things, right? So I think that that's super important because sometimes somebody may not see your vision, right? When I told people I was going to be a data scientist within cyber, they're like, that doesn't exist. Well, now you can Google it, right? Because data scientist is a huge position within cyber. And I'm glad that I made that transition.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. I just love picking up gems. But you guys are so wonderful. These are some talented women. A lot. I know we have a few more questions I would like to get to, but I just want to drop when you only have one ethnic group in your network, you need to expand much more if you can expand your network outside of your own culture. I mean that, yes, we love our Black pride, but a lot of the positions and a lot of people who will sponsor you for your next job will not look exactly like you. So I mean that as you build that network of people around you, make sure you're people that don't look like us. Randi, I would like to, I know you have get to a couple of more while we have like 10 more minutes. I think we have.
Yeah, so a lot of the questions from the chat are surrounding like how do you get that start in cyber, whether it's younger students or people who are trying to transition into the field. What advice do you have for people who are trying to break into cyber?
I'd like to take that one. I transitioned into cyber from physical therapy. So if you go on my LinkedIn, I was a doctor of physical therapy, went to Howard University for PT, and that's what I wanted to do, right? And I never imagined I'd be doing cyber. And then so 2 years later, I just had to just go hard, study, boot camps, learn everything I could know, and then decided on cloud. So everyone's like, well, that's just so different, two different fields. And I'll be honest, there's literally nothing that transferred over except for soft skills and dealing with people. Because what I learned is that technology is about people and processes, and the technology, that's the easy part. But dealing with the people, that's something else. So I was able to interface with, patients and in the hospital and sick people and all kinds of different kinds of people. So I had to come to their level. I had to meet them where they are. And when I go into technology, I kind of use that same thing. I try to engage different teams, meet my organization where they are, help to drive goals to where they want to be. Because as a PT, I have to set goals for my patients, and so some of those skills transferred to me. I saw that in the chat. They were like, what are some transferable skills? And for me, it had to be my soft skills for sure. working with people and engaging with people, and then the technology is the easy part. That's the part that works. But getting the process and people around it, it can be challenging. And I think bringing that different culture to my job that I'm at now is why they appreciated me so much, because there was one personality type that works there. I'm the only woman, the only Black woman in the whole cloud security team. So I mean, me wanting to engage with my team and work as a team cross-functionally and talk about how we can get to an end goal that's also a business driver, bring value to the business. I mean, that's the language that they're talking. So that was some of the soft skills I was able to bring over. And I would say, if you start getting out, you're transitioning like myself, definitely look at the career you're in now, some of the strengths that you have there and how that can transfer over into cyber, because you'd be surprised on how much the industry kind of thirsts for that. And they're really yearning for some of those things. So that would be my advice.
Thank you so much. Anyone else want to chime in on that question?
Nita, so I had one comment. So I see in chat that Bridges has shared a couple of organizations that people can join, because some of these organizations have resources that they do share, and some of them are free, right? And in addition to that, I know there are also tools and resources that you can actually try things out. I always tell my students, it's only when you try something that for sure you don't like it, right? And so, for example, growing up, I mean, I knew for sure that I wanted to be in tech, but I didn't know I didn't like software programming, or I didn't want to be a software engineer. It was only when I worked 3 years as a software engineer, I figured out that I was not cut out for that, right? And so to that point, I always tell them, there are things like Try Hack Me, there are things like Capture the Flag, right? There are things like, all these tools and platforms that you can actually leverage for free. Try them, sign up, they're free. If you keep doing these Capture the Flags and you figure out this is not cut out for you, then of course, there are certain things that you can rule out. In addition to what Fatou said, you have to do your research. You can never go wrong when you do the research, because you get to understand what's the advantages, the disadvantages, what's the skill set that I would need for this particular role, right? And so adding all together, I think, would make whoever wants to stay afloat or transition very crisp, because you have the research you're doing, you have these free tools that you're leveraging and trying all these Try Hack Me's, and also you are part of BIC, you're part of Women in Cybersecurity, you're part of Women in Cyber Jitsu, you're part of Black Girls in Cyber, all these amazing organizations, and you learn from them. And you might even end up landing yourself a mentor or building your network in these organizations, and the conversation will continue.
Thank you so much. I just want to say, when you take what ladies are saying tonight, make sure you're taking notes, because this is some fabulous information that you don't have to do it alone, and give yourself grace. So industry in cyber that you don't like, it's okay. Something for you, and you now have a skill that you didn't have before. Apply it to something else that you like, because it's a big industry. And just because maybe you like the marketing part of the cyber industry, because believe it's all over. So just think about that as you look at this stuck and said, oh, I did this and now I have to stay here. No, you don't have to stay there. You can move on. I think we have time for one more question, Randi. Can you?
Yeah, so I kind of want to bounce off the previous one and ask, this is from the chat, what steps do you take to make yourself more marketable, especially as you're working towards certificates or like in the beginning of your career? How can you make yourself more marketable?
One of the ways I make myself more marketable is by sometimes kind of looking what things are kind of big and out there, and then kind of looking at things that may be new and innovative that may be kind of coming down the pipeline. To me, I've been able to make myself marketable by having a skill set that not a lot of people have. So when I walk into a room, I'm able to say, hey, I'm able to do X, Y, and Z. Also, too, I'm cross-trained to do multiple different things. just because in my career over a span of 7 years, I made myself do multiple different roles in cyber to kind of get hands-on experience where when a job did hire me, I'm able to say, hey, I can do stock. Hey, I can do GRC. Hey, I can do pen testing. Hey, I could do engineering. I could be an engineer as well. So I learned literally every facet I could within tech to make myself marketable. So that way I was bringing something unique to the table.
I want to add on to that and say, outside of just work and teaching, I do a lot of personal projects within cyber. So sometimes I'll come across a new tool and I'm like, hey, I want to work with this tool. I just want to mess with it. And I'll do that on the side. And I'll probably build something like whether it's like building your own virtual machine or your own network and things like that, and hacking into it myself because it's legal if I do it in my house, things like that. And just being able to speak on those things when I am interviewing, or, you know, even to my students, because I know a lot of them like to create their own home labs, and having those conversations with them. Sometimes especially when you're pivoting within cyber, you might be on like the defense side where you're doing like the blue teaming and things like that, and you want to transfer over to the red team. You're not going to be doing red team stuff for the most part in your daily role, right? So you want to be able to speak on, this is what I did on my own. It worked, it didn't work, but you'll be able to speak on those experiences. And I feel like a lot of the time, you have to work on things outside of your work in order to be successful, especially in this field.
Something go ahead. No, something I'd like to say, just saying marketable. What I like to do is just get out in the market every 6 months, like interview every 6 months and keep your ears to the ground, see what questions are being asked, keep your ears to the, on what's happening in the field. So staying kind of what Kiara said as far as new skills coming down the pipe and making sure you like played around with those tools, experimented with it, because you can add that to your resume, mini projects. But I like to personally just, have a conversation with a recruiter, have a conversation with a company and see like, okay, this is a role I may be looking at. What are the questions? What are some of the things you're looking for? What is the job description looking for? I think that's how you can say it's most up to date and current as far as like what tools, what technologies, how organizations are moving. So yeah.
We are almost down to the minute. I just want to drop one more gem for you guys. If to get in the industry and you don't have the experience or you don't know how to know how, guess what? Organizations that want your skill set or want to help teach you. And that's why I say volunteer, voluntold, get out there, find an organization where you can be used. And now you have something to put on your resume, and you have people that will be in search for you as well. So those are some key things to keep moving and growing, and it's always changing. I would like to thank all of our panelists, Randi, for tonight. It's been a wonderful time. I want to see if there are comments as a closing before we let you go. Any closing comments from anyone before we are done?
Nita had one. So my comment was, in addition to adding, those skill sets on your resume, please make sure you are sharing on LinkedIn. I know I don't do well with that, but trust me, if you try, let's say a try hack me and you get a badge or you get, a certificate, post it on LinkedIn, add it to your LinkedIn, right? And tag the specific company or organization you took it from. So let's say recently there's the ARCX, they have this free cyber threat hunting program going on. Once you sign up and you get that certificate after doing the 2-hour class, post it on LinkedIn, tag BIC, tag your mentor, tag, your organization or so that it goes out there. Because recruiters, as much as they would want to look at your resume, they'll be spying on your LinkedIn. They'll be going there to see what's going on there, right? So the more they see how active you are, how vocal you are, how you're volunteering, how you're giving back, some of these things would catch their eye.
That is awesome. I want to encourage everyone who's watching, please connect with our panelists on LinkedIn and let them know that you in this panel, and so that you can build a connection with them, because they are more than to help you along your way. These women are giving up valuable time because they want to see you grow. So we just want to thank them again for all their time and everything that they do, and Blacks in cybersecurity, and also promoting Black women in cybersecurity. Thank you, and good night.